Hi, guys. Good morning. Welcome to the morning show. I'm your host, Marli Ansel, at Marli Ansel on the Instagrams. And this is the morning show where you come to get your daily dose of inspiration and level up into your highest being. It's all about real life, but we make it magical. How are you feeling? There's so much to talk about. And today we're diving into such an important subject: practices for your mental health during deep spiritual healing. This is a subject not often talked about. This is something that I think is absolutely vital, especially when you start to embark on a healing path. It can be quite the tumultuous journey. So, today we're going to dive into some practices that have saved my life for my own mental health while going through deep spiritual healing. So, say hello as you're jumping on. How are you feeling? Welcome to the morning show. We are here. Happy full moon, you guys. Happy full moon. We're right on it. 9:47 a.m. was the Sagittarius full moon at its peak. This full moon, I don't know how you guys are feeling about it. Full moons can bring up quite a bit, but I like this energy. I'm feeling this energy. Chris says, "Good morning, intense energy today." Yes. So from what I've gathered about this full moon collectively. So obviously it's going to affect everyone personally. This full moon is conjunct my Saturn, which um in theory should have me feeling very like anytime a moon, which is all of your emotions, conjunct Saturn, which is like your constrictor, your like karmic lessons. In theory, I should be feeling a little like, "Meh," but I feel pretty good. So, anyway, what I understand about this moon collectively is that this is a huge letting go. You know, you guys, we talked about it earlier in the week around Neptune being in the 29th degree, Jupiter and Venus being in the 29th degree, making us tiled to that Neptune. This is all about a letting go, a spiritual completion, which ties, of course, so perfectly to our subject today because we're talking about what you have been going through in terms of your spiritual healing, that deep process that could be like a dark night of the soul, something you had to go through. Well, that chapter is now coming to a completion with this collective energy that's showing up. Can we all just give a praise and the hallelujahs? Like, because healing can be really, really hard. So there's something you're completing here. There's something you have been moving through, going through, had to go through for your spiritual growth, your spiritual, what you had to learn, the lessons you had to get. And now that's coming to a close. It's coming to, so let's celebrate what's popping up for us right now. Okay, so let's dive in. We are talking today about practices for your mental health during deep spiritual healing. Now, first and foremost, I think that spiritual healing in general is so misunderstood by the whole, by the collective. There's the select few of us that have a little bit better of a grasp and an understanding on it. But for the most part, spiritual healing can be often misinterpreted as depression, anxiety, something is wrong with me. I need to go get my mind checked out. I've got to go get my brain checked out. There's something often like a lot of times it can be like this. And so the more that we try to it's not the way I want to say it. I really try to give you guys the whole of what it all is when you're moving through deep spiritual healing. Because, on the surface, we're like spiritual awakening, sounds amazing. Thank you, Desi. I got my moon earrings for the full moon. Sounds amazing. We're like light, love, joy. Absolutely. Like that is where it's going. And that's the whole point. But before you get to the wholeness of love and light that comes with that level of awakening, there's a purging process. There is a letting go. There is what we call the dark night of the soul. And that is a really tough time period. Like there's no sugarcoating that. That is a tough time period. You're facing a lot of the things that maybe you've been running away from a lot of your life. You're facing coding inside of you that may not even be yours, could be from your ancestral line, could be karma from a past life. So all of these things are coming out during a period of deep spiritual healing. And we can literally feel like we're losing our minds. So I want to just like give you a little like calming words. You are okay. I promise you're okay. And it can feel really, really, really tough. So let's talk about it. And then we're going to go into the practices. And I'm going to give you some things that are just going to like create that really beautiful, solid foundation for you as you are moving through this healing and coming out of the healing. Because when you come out of the healing, it's almost like you have like Bambi legs. You're like, what do I do now? Like, okay, I feel better. I can see what I've gone through. I see that I've processed it, but like now what? And so we got to talk about it all. Okay, so let's talk first about what's actually happening when we say a dark night of the soul. So, a dark night of the soul is essentially a time period during your awakening where you are being faced with all of your ego attachments and things that have had you kind of anchored down to a lower vibration. This is why it's so difficult. So, a lot of times, a dark night of the soul happens because we've been trying to push the, lack of a better word, wrong way for too long. So, when we try to push our own agenda as like, I know better than God, watch me push forward on this path. When we try to lead from the ego, we have free will. We're allowed to do that. But after a while, life just starts kind of closing in. It gets harder and harder and harder until the point where you are kind of faced to see all of the things that you've been holding on to with your attachments that's creating that really difficult level of life. And essentially, where it all ends is surrender. We've talked about this a million times. You're either going to surrender voluntarily or you're going to be forced into surrender. Either way, surrender is the end result, right? But when we go through a dark night of the soul, what it feels like. So, want you guys to hear this so that you can kind of identify if this is where you're at. This is where you're at. It's good to know because once you know and understand these things, you can stop making yourself wrong. So when you're in the dark night of the soul, what it really feels like, I mean, the name tells it all. It feels as though just like this dark cloud is kind of over you all the time. Now, there are different time periods in our life in terms of the cosmos that everyone goes through. So everyone has a Saturn return somewhere around 28 to 30 years old. In that time period, it's known as the great corrector. It's either going to solidify the path you're on if it's good, or it's going to blow up your whole life. So those of you who are watching, you look back on when you were 28 years old and be like, oh, well, that's what was happening. Now, this occurs every 28 years. So if you're somewhere around like 56, you're going to go through another Saturn return. So there's times like that. But then we have our own personal journeys of our own personal path with our soul growth that we signed up for with the lessons that we have. When we're moving through those lessons, if we're not going to, Chris said, my life blew apart at 30, right there it is. Same, my life entirely changed. And everyone's does. Everyone's does in some way. So we have our own soul growth journey. We have the path that we signed up for. We have the set of lessons we signed up for. I did a story on this last night. It is so futile to sit and compare yourself to someone else because every individual soul has signed up for unique healing, growth, and their own set of lessons. So this whole comparisonitis thing that our ego mind likes to do is one of the most ridiculous things we can do because no two souls sign up for the same path. So it's like if you're facing the tumultuousness of this one area of life and someone else has got their shit together and everything's beautiful for them, don't sit there and go, what's wrong with me? Because you don't know what that person's set of lessons are. That person has guaranteed their own set of lessons that you don't have, entirely different. So we have our set of lessons, we have the growth that we have to go through. And along the way, we're not always set up to go through that process smoothly. For a lot of us, it's like the tower moment, like in tarot, where everything comes crumbling down. At least it feels that way. And then we are forced to face the parts of ourselves that we've been trying to outrun. Now, the thing about this is that it's sneaky. Like it's really, really sneaky. Instagram, I'm sorry, my internet keeps coming out in and out. It's a sneaky thing. So you could be pushing really hard, like, "Oh, I've just got to work harder," because that's what your subset of society has told you. I've just got to push harder, work harder, and it's going to work. It's going to work. And you can feel the panic energy in that. You can feel the like, I'm trying to force it forward energy in that. But during that time, you might not recognize it. Like, you might not recognize that you're leading from the ego. You might not recognize that you're trying to force something forward until, well, I don't even know that you would get it at this point. But eventually, what happens is when you try to force your way from that ego point of view for so long, everything kind of blows up in your face and crumbles down. Now, this can feel devastating, and this can be emotional. Like, I mean, it's definitely emotional, but it could just be emotional. It could be that the physical things in your life are fine, but emotionally you end up crumbling down. It could be that one specific area of your life triggers that dark night of the soul within you, and it feels as though everything's crumbling down. So, if this is where you're at, what I want you to hear more than anything is that everything that is crumbling away is what was meant to crumble away so that your higher self, your higher potential can come through. Again, we've got to think about it in terms of energy, less about the physicality and more about energy. If I'm operating in a lower vibrational energy and I'm holding on to that lower vibration, I am essentially anchoring myself at that level. When that stuff starts getting forced to crumble, my ego is going to really freak out. Like, we all know this feeling, right? Things don't go your way. You're like, oh my, it's going to really freak out. This is triggering that time period where you're having to face yourself. If you lose something material that then triggers all your self worth stuff, that was meant to happen. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you had to see that stuff. You were clinging to this outside attachment and putting all of your validation and worth in this thing. And so the universe was like, closing, 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 closing until it's like, and then you're faced to force that feeling, the thing that's inside of you. And that's going to be your journey through that dark night of the soul. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I have been through this in a way that's like so in depth that I understand, is what I'm saying. I understand. And let me be a glimmer of hope for you. Because when you're in it, I understand how dark it feels. When you're in it, I understand how scary it feels. I understand that you feel like you don't know which way to go. You don't know up from down. Just getting out of bed feels like a chore. I understand. So during this time period, there's a few things that I want to share with you that are really, really going to help you out. So practice number one, focus on the small things. Focus on the small things. When you're going through this deep spiritual healing where everything is getting surfaced for you to look at, the small things are your foundation of life. Now, what I mean by that is like getting out of bed and getting dressed. Just getting out of bed and getting dressed. Not staying in your PJs and sweats all day long. Truth meter, I did that. Stayed in PJs and sweats all day long for a lot of time. A lot of time. I look back on it now and I can see the monumental difference between now and then. I understand that it was part of where I was at. But had I been able to, at the time period, recognize, if I just get up, if you wear makeup, you wear makeup. I go through phases. Put a little makeup on, brush your hair and put some clothes on. It does wonders for your mental health. It doesn't even matter if anyone is going to see you or not. It just helps you to feel better. I'm not saying dress to the nines unless you want to. Like, if you want to go all out and dress up in some like Pride and Prejudice dresses and like make it a thing, by all means, do that. But the little things like getting up and getting dressed, brush your hair, put on a little bit of makeup, little things. Those of you who are not in a dark night of the soul right now, this might sound very remedial to you, but when you're going through that really deep level of healing, this is monumental. It is monumental. Okay. Also, with the small things, move your body, go on a walk, go on a walk, go on a walk. Like back to basics because you are moving through. So I want you to think about this like literally when you go through a dark night of the soul, think about it in terms of the caterpillar turning to goop. You are in the stage of goop. Okay. Like just the basics foundation is so, so important for you because there's so much energy being used for the healing. Like, even if you don't have a healing practice, I mean, of course, I highly recommend having one, but even if you don't have a healing practice, this process of having you face every part of yourself, shed out that old energy is like astronomical in the amount of energy that your body is having to use to do that. Do you see what I'm saying? This is why you're so tired. This is why it's like everything seems like the biggest thing in the world. It's just like, oh God. And then parenting during that, oh my God. I went through it when I became a parent. It was like, what do I do with myself right now? I really don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot. So get up in the morning. Chris said, I feel this deeply this morning. I feel I'm going through a dark night of the soul emotionally. Yes, 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 yes. And here's the thing. It's always about what you're feeling. Everything we do comes down to a feeling. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Okay. So small things, get up, get dressed, make as much as you can, like make it like a fun just for you thing. Do you know what I mean? So essentially when you're going through a dark night, you're transforming. You're leaving behind an old version of you and you're moving into a new level version of you. When you're right in the middle of it, it's really hard to see that, because you're just in the dark cloud. You're like, oh, what is life? Right? It's hard to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I promise you there is. So when you're in it, do what you can, right? Take care of the basics. Get good sleep. And I'm going to say this loud, loud, and clear. You're going to sleep a lot more. You're going to sleep a lot more. That's a good thing because your body is using so much energy to process out this old stuff. Again, caterpillar turning to goop, formulating an entirely new body. So much energy is happening here. So you're going to want to sleep more. Don't make that wrong. Don't make that wrong as much as you can. Like nurture, nurture, nurture. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm going to say it so many times. Back to the basics. Back to the basics of nurturing and caring for yourself. Sleep as much as you want. Okay. If you need to lay down and take a nap in the middle of the day after you slept for 10 hours last night, do it. Don't make it wrong. You're processing. And the thing about this is the more that you embrace these things, the more you embrace the process of the dark night of the soul, the faster it goes, which is what we want. The more you resist it, the more you make it wrong, the more you fight it, the more it elongates because it's a process of regeneration, essentially. So we're sleeping, we're getting up and getting ourselves ready. We're putting on the hair and makeup. Now, I'm not saying every day, okay, but shoot for a couple of times a week. And then food, good, nurturing food. Like really taking care of your body, nurturing food. Have your brownies and cookies. By no means would I ever tell a woman that she cannot have her brownie. Like we need that in our lives. But focus more on like nurturing the body and giving it what it needs. Movement of some sort. When you're going through this time period, like a real intense workout does not always feel like the best thing in the world for you. Go on walks. Go on walks. Is it normal not to want to eat? Yes. Yes. And it'll probably be periods. You might have like a couple of days to like a week or so where food is just like you're really uninterested. And then you'll have like a deep craving for something that your body needs. You just really want to be in tune and pay attention to it. Okay. So that's our basics, right? Sleep, get up in the morning, get ready, try to have a conversation with at least one person, get out of your own head, you know what I mean? Like, do that because that's very, very helpful. And I'll say this too, like, share what you're going through with not just anybody, but with someone who understands. You know, like when I was moving through it, so blessed and lucky that I had people in my life that I could speak to about it. It was still hard, you know, like I could talk to Robert about what I was feeling. I could talk to my mom about what I was feeling. I got sick of myself after a while. I was like, oh, I have got to get over this. Like, this is ridiculous, right? Chris said, I've gone through many dark nights in the soul, but this one is so intense. Yeah. So I think that we all go through one really big one, like one really, really big one. And it is all in preparation. So this will be point number two. I had it as four, but we'll make it point number two. It's all in preparation for the mission, for what you came here to do and who you came here to be. So everything that you're shutting out is so that you can step into that version of you that has a really strong reason for her existence. So it's like you have to shift your perspective. So this is number two. You have to shift your perspective that it is happening for you. And I know we hear that in the personal development world, but here's why it's so, so important. Your perspective will determine the frequency of reality that you experience. So if your perspective is, this is awful, this is something has gone wrong, nothing is working out for me, then that is going to create the level of reality where that's true for you. If you want to experience the level of reality where it's like, this is all happening for me, like, yes, this is intense right now, but my perspective on it is that I am shutting away everything that I cannot bring forward because there's a big mission on my life. There's a big calling on who I need to become so that I can step into that level of life that I know I have felt that call for. And you guys know this feeling, like, you know, the call feeling where it's just like, I have to. You might not even know what it is, but there's something pulling you forward. That is a very specific feeling. Not everyone on this planet has that feeling. I want to just point this out. Not everyone on this planet has that feeling of like the pull, like you have to go through this because you've got to be ready. You've got to get to this point so that you can do what you came here to do. So you've got to have the perspective that what you're moving through right now, as hard as it may feel, has purpose. It has purpose and it is not forever. It is getting you to let go of all of those old things that are of the past identity, past karma, past coding, past ancestral line, past trauma. It is having you process it so that you can step into the butterfly version of you, the version of you that can go out and truly create that impact or whatever it is that you're feeling called towards. Chris said, I know that feeling, that calling, and then the feeling, and then feeling all this at the same time. Yes, 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 yes. Hi, Erin, feeling this huge pull. Yes, yeah. So we got to have that perspective because one, it's a much better perspective. But two, in having that perspective, you then become available for the reality where that's true. So you can block yourself all day long with your perspective. It's like the way that I envision it is like a light bulb moment. So if you're like, let's see here, the path is open for you here. Okay, okay, we got it. We got it. Oh, I don't know. This might be the most ridiculous drawing ever. Okay, so this is you. And you've been walking this path. And the open path is this way, but you keep trying to walk that way. So with the wrong perspective, as in the perspective that this is awful, this is happening to me, this is working against me, blah, blah, blah. It's like you continuously trying to go this way. And there's a wall, and there's a wall, and there's a wall. You will never see the reality of it working in your favor. The moment you shift your perspective, it is like you turn around and can see the pathway where it is working in your favor. Does that make sense? So your mentality about it is huge. It's a really, really big part of this, and you've got to embrace it. So, number three, you've got to embrace and allow the emotions that come through. Now, I'm going to say it with this asterisk, asterisk, as much as you can without identifying with the emotion. And that's the big one. That's the big one. My clients, my OGs that are on here right now, they're all like, yeah. You have to allow the emotional energy to come through without identifying with it, without making a story about it. Just feel it. This is healing. Feeling is healing. All these personal development cliche things that we hear on a regular basis, there's deeper meaning behind them. If you can just allow whatever you feel to just be there, like, and turn the mind off. I know, easier said than done. But if you can just feel, like if you feel sad and you just need to like boo hoo cry out, do it with no story. Don't go, I'm crying because. Don't go, I feel like this because of that. If that was different, then I would feel better. Don't do that. That's going to keep you in a loop. That's going to keep you stuck. Just feel it. Recognize that it's emotion processing out of your body. Remembering again, when we're moving energy out, it's in your body and it needs to move out. So as much as you can move it out, the better. I am not lying to you all when I tell you there was a time period where I was crying every day. Every day. Why? I don't know. Like so much coming out of me. I have a very distinct memory on Father's Day. It's been a few years now. Maybe 21. Maybe 2021. Oh gosh, kicking things. On Father's Day, I was in such a state where like I felt like I could not do anything. I was in such a state where I felt like I just could not do anything. And I let me back up. I was so enraptured in what I was going through that planning something for the future, especially something for someone else, seemed like the hardest task in the world. So Father's Day kind of snuck up on me. And here it's like the kids are with us, and Robert's obviously their father, and I have planned nothing. And I remember getting up on that day, feeling so overwhelmed by it, feeling so bad that I didn't have anything together, and then feeling even worse because to even try to figure out how to do something felt like the most impossible task in the world. Just for full, like, this is what was happening. And I remember I have this vivid memory of sitting on my couch when the couch was in here, talking to Robert, and God bless that man. He's so wonderful and understanding and supportive and holds so much space. Like, I feel like he handled me better than I handled me. You know what I mean? I just remember crying like a death had happened. You know that level of tears, like that level of emotion coming out of your body. It was the type of crying like a death had happened, like just pouring out of me. And I remember really like recognizing it. Like, this is a lot of emotion for just like forgetting Father's Day. You know what I mean? Because it really didn't have anything to do with Father's Day. It was me just processing stuff out. What triggered it? What was coming out? I don't know. Don't care. Just wanted to get it out. Do you see what I'm saying? So feel what you feel as it comes through, because that's so important for the processing. Again, think about it in the opposite way. If what you're doing is shutting out old energy so that you can be this fresh new vibration, so and therefore vibrational frequency, if you suppress emotion, which is energy, you are stuffing back down that old energy that needs to be shut out. So whatever emotion you feel, just let it come out, make zero story about it. Just like, I'm feeling this, it must exit my body. It must come out, move it out. So allow the emotion of what you feel without identifying with it. Somebody writing these down? We need to write these down. Okay. And then the last part of it, which is In the more transitionary period of once you have gone through the like darkness, the dark night of the soul of the spiritual healing, like once you've processed the bulk of that and you start to come out of it, your number one focus is authenticity. Meaning, like, your number one is like, where is my heart calling me to? Because what you've essentially processed out is all the stories of society and the conditioned belief systems and the past karma and the past trauma and the coding of your ancestors. You have processed out all the shit that basically wasn't you. You feel me on this? So as you start to emerge, the question that's the number one question is like, what's right for me? Where is my heart calling me to? What is it that's starting to feel that little spark of joy? Oh Lord. Oh, my clients that have been through this, the dark night of the soul, the moment of the spark of joy, you're like, oh my God, oh my God. Because once you've been in it for a while, I mean, it's dark and it's heavy. And then when you feel that first spark of joy, like it's giving me goosebumps. Oh, ridiculous. When you feel that first spark of joy, you're just like, ah, like that's the light. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. And so you want to nurture that. You want to nurture that spark of joy. What is it that you feel called to? What feels right for you? Who are you? Who are you? You know what I mean? Like really get to know you. I've said this before and I'll say it again 1,000 times. You don't know who you are yet. Not even close. You have no idea. Praise Jesus, she has arrived. I literally just said this. So you don't know who you are yet. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how much you think you know. You have not even begun to fully discover the wholeness of who you are yet until you start to intentionally find it, intentionally figure it out. Because the majority of our lives, we are told who we are. We're told. We're told by our parents. We're told by school. We're told by society. We're told by our friends. We're told by labels. Like we're told who we are. It is not until you go through this process and you shed out everything that you're not that you then can embark on the beginning of the journey of figuring out who you actually are. And it's fun. That is fun because that is when your light really starts to come online. That's when that moment of like, giving fucks about anybody else is gone. It's like, you're like, I am unconcerned about what that opinion is, or what the world is over here, or what's going on over there, or what Sally Sue's opinion is about the PTA and my work and whatever. You just don't care anymore because you started to find something that's so real and so true and so grounded. And it's like, nothing can touch that. So you go through this process, and I know it can be so, so hard, but God, it's so worth it. It's so worth it because once you start to really and get in touch with that light, that truth of who you are, nothing else matters. It's just like life actually begins because you're no longer distorting yourself to fit in. You're no longer compromising your standards for something that you think you're supposed to be. It's like you fully come into that light. You fully come into that joy. And from there, that's when your power really starts coming online. And I'll say this too, you're going to start discovering new things about yourself that you didn't even know existed, which is really cool. You're going to discover gifts that you had that you didn't know you had. You're going to discover likes, hobbies, things that you become passionate about you didn't know you had a passion for. New things start to come online because you've stepped into this more authentic, true version of yourself. And it is such a gift from God. Okay, let's see. Aaron said, I think my husband is in this a bit. How do you handle it with people you love? So much space and grace. Oh my God, so much space and grace. I just think about Robert in like him holding this space for me. The greatest gift he gave me was to allow me to feel what I was feeling at any point in time. And he was just that solid love. Like he didn't try to give me advice unless I asked him. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't try to rush me. He didn't tell me you need to hurry up and get over it. These were thoughts in my head. I was like, my God, like I'm sick of me. If I cry one more time, like I'm done with me, you know? he had so much patience and space and grace for me to go through that evolution. And I'm so grateful for it because I could not have imagined being with someone. I could not have imagined being with someone going through that who did not give me that space. It would have been so hard. So, I mean, it was hard already, but it would have been really, really hard to be with someone who did not have the patience for me. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful every single day. So space and grace. I mean, because everyone you know in love is going to go through this at some point in life. If you are there during that process, just space and grace for them. I mean, just so much space and grace for them. You know, you're going to see your kids go through it. My mom watched me go through it. You know, like you're going to see this happen. And if you understand what's happening, it's so helpful. So now I will say this, and it's a little bit touchy, but I think it would be amiss not to say it. This process often is mistaken for depression, anxiety, chemical imbalances, something is wrong with me, all of those things. And a lot of times, because our society is what it is and we like to medicate the hell out of things, we end up getting on some sort of medicine that ends up suppressing the process. So, asterisk, asterisk, I am not a doctor. Okay, I'm not here to make medical recommendations. But if it feels right for you, or I should say, if medicine does not feel right for you, trust that. Do you feel me on that? Trust that. I've worked with so many women who were on medication when we started working together. And through doing the spiritual and energetic coaching work with them, they were entirely off of their medication by the time we got done with the container. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to make medical recommendations, but everything comes down to energy. Everything comes down to energy. So when you heal the energetic root, the entire system gets healed, right? Medicating something is like if you're growing an orange tree, but you would rather it be apples. Medicating it is just like chopping off the branch with the orange tree every time you see it. It's just going to grow back an orange. So when we get to the root and we do that healing work, we uproot the old energy that needs to come out, and we allow that process of that emotional healing. That's going to allow you the opportunity to step fully into that more authentic version of you, plant a new seed, step into a new level of life. Okay? And if you're currently on medication, don't quit cold turkey and put yourself in a tizzy unless it feels right for you. But just keep this in mind. You know, if you don't want to be on medication, it is not the only way. That's my TED Talk. Okay. I love you guys so much. We're going to wrap. We were here for a while, but I felt like this was a really important one to do. So I love you. If you're going through this, I promise you you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Practice these 4 practical tips to do every day. It will help you so, so, so much. And as always, I am always here with all of the teachings and the coachings. If you need to or want to come into one of my coaching containers, you can always send me a message and we can talk about what's perfect and right for you. I love you. We're going to be here tomorrow, Friday, for our live Q&A day. If you have a question that you want to submit into the show, divulge your soul, you can do so at marliansel.com/themorningshow. Submit your question entirely anonymously, and we'll do Q&A tomorrow. All right, my loves, I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye. Goodbye, my love.